Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Stroll U class. I'm your host, Tiffany McDaniel, and we are joined today with my team, Joan and Teresa, and they are going to talk to us about nutrition and the importance of it. So, thank you for joining us, and I'll let you take it over.
All right, I'm going to share my screen. All good?
Mhm.
Okay, let me just get this up. All righty. Let me just make sure this is the right one. And here we go. Okay. Again, I'm Geraldine. I'm a registered dietitian, and Teresa and I are colleagues. So we put together a little presentation, and we're going to leave some time for questions, answers, discussions. And we're going to talk about cystic fibrosis and nutrition and longer life expectancy.
This actually, just before we start, this has been like a hot topic around our clinic. So that's why we thought this presentation would be a wonderful thing to talk about.
And we hope that you can help us too as providers to help us learn so we could continue to provide the best care that we possibly can for you. All right. So the historical cystic fibrosis diet has always been an emphasis on high fat, high sodium or salt intake, and calorie or energy needs for CF are typically 1.5 to 2 times higher than that of someone without CF. So this is related to malabsorption from pancreatic insufficiency, frequent infections, and increased work of breathing, and to maintain or promote weight gain towards an appropriate body mass index, which is the proportion of your height and weight. And it's been published in the literature and the research to correlate with breathing function. So now we have these CFTR modulators, which many people could be on, and they're really quite wonderful in many ways. So there's Kalydeco, Orkambi, Symdeko, and Trikafta. And for many people, hold on, let me get rid of this. For many people, there we go. For many people taking these medications, there is improvement in lung function, there's better absorption of nutrients, weight gain, and the best part is longer life expectancy. So we want to focus a lot on CFT modulators and weight gain, which has been something many people have experienced on it. So with weight gain, there is an increased risk of obesity because there's better absorption and utilization of your nutrients, of your vitamins, of your minerals, and your calories, carbohydrates, proteins, and fat. And calories is the same thing as energy. So with weight gain and CF, it's contributed to longer life expectancy because, like we said, with the BMI and better breathing function. However, it's increasing occurrence of overweight and with the modulators. So the goal is to achieve and maintain a healthy weight.
So like,
right.
Oh yeah. So this is where I was going to butt in about BMI. So basically what Geraldine was saying, we use BMI to determine what is a healthy body weight. So if your BMI is under 18, you're considered underweight. Between 18 to 25, it's a normal. Overweight is 25 to 29, and obese is over 30, and extremely obese is over 35. And we look at these numbers because we see that with women who hold a BMI around 22, they have better lung functions, they're not getting as sick as much. And for men, their BMI around 23 is more ideal as well. So we're not seeing them get as sick and they have better lung function. So what are the risks associated with obesity and longer life expectancy? As we age, we're at risk for diabetes, cardiovascular disease, high cholesterol, hypertension, which is your high blood pressure. When you go into your clinic, I'm sure your RD looks at your A1C, which is an average of your blood sugar over the past 3 months. They look at your lipid panel where they talk about your LDL, your HDL, your cholesterol, your triglycerides. So these are all important. So diabetes, it's a disease which the body's ability to produce or respond to the hormone insulin is impaired, resulting in abnormal metabolism of carbohydrates, and it elevates levels of glucose in the blood and urine. Why is it important to prevent diabetes? Because it can put you at risk for impaired vision, retinopathy. It can affect your kidney function. It can put you at risk for stroke, heart attack, and vascular disease. So I'm sorry, you want to?
You got, go ahead, you go.
You can do the next one. So someone with CFRD, cystic related diabetes, they need to take insulin because we see from studies that oral medications are not effective. I was actually reading into this because I was always interested in why they use insulin and not oral medication. And it seems like, correct me if I'm wrong, Jarlyn, it seems like it has to do with like the insulin resistance, and oral medication doesn't really affect that. So you need insulin in that.
Right. So it's kind of CF related diabetes. It's its own sort of form of diabetes, because there's type 1 and there's type 2, and we won't go into the whole jargon of it because that's kind of, another topic of conversation. But with diabetes in general, it's either your body isn't producing insulin, isn't producing enough insulin, or isn't using the insulin effectively, and it's resistant. So with CFRD, it's a little bit combination of all of the above. So oral medications don't target CF-related diabetes as much as insulin. Insulin, everyone's body has it or doesn't. If you don't have it or don't have enough of it, you need it to survive. You need it to maintain your blood sugar. Because if you don't have it, when we eat carbohydrates, it's not going to get into our cells. And if it doesn't go in the cells in your bloodstream, it's in your blood. And then you have high blood sugar. And that can do damage to your body over a very prolonged period of time if those blood sugars are not maintained as much as possible. So often we'll refer people to a specialist known as an endocrinologist, and often diabetes educators. That can be a nurse diabetes educator, a dietitian diabetes educator, and they do a variety of things from nutrition to insulin administration, testing blood sugars with glucometers, and they are certified professionals just for that. So the next risk is also cardiovascular disease. So high cholesterol can increase your risk of heart disease. And there's different types of cholesterol, which Teresa had briefed upon. So you have HDL, which is good cholesterol, and LDL. Most cholesterol in our body is what you naturally produce. But diet and obesity and overweight can contribute to elevating those levels, as well as longer life expectancy. And that's for anyone, CF or not. So what happens when you have high cholesterol is it develops these fatty deposits, like you can see in this diagram, and it sort of clogs up the vessels, the arteries, and it makes it hard for blood to flow through. And if your blood can't flow through effectively over time, it can increase your risk for a heart attack. And we also have high blood pressure and hypertension. When your blood pressure is high, your heart is having to work harder to keep your pressure sustained. So it does increase the risk for stroke, and it can damage your kidneys and increase your risk of kidney disease. All right, you take it over, Teresa.
So the role of nutrition and eating healthy. So we talk about it's important achieving and maintaining appropriate weight. We talk about we want to basically reduce our risk for obesity, diabetes, and heart disease. So in ways we can prevent obesity and try to control our diabetes and heart disease is to focus on lean and low fat proteins, incorporating high fiber carbohydrates, I always tell my patients to eat the rainbow, so eat a variety of fruits and vegetables. Big thing when it comes to CFRD, I tell my patients the best thing they can do is to avoid drinking sugary beverages. There's no nutritional benefit from it. There's no reason for you to drink it. Water is best. and exercise, because exercise helps you maintain that good weight. And it's also good for your bone health as well.
And it helps you use the insulin in your body more effectively. It sort of boosts it up, if you will. Okay.
So we, as Sherilyn was saying, we were wanting to focus on different types of fats. So we want to have more healthy fats. So those are your unsaturated fats, your monounsaturated and polyunsaturated. They're liquid at room temperature. They're normally made from plant products. So corn oil, canola oil, avocado oil, those are good things to cook with. You want to basically choose those types of fat in your diet. You want to have less of the saturated fat and trans fat. Saturated fat is solid at room temperature. It's typically found in like your meat products. I always tell people the chicken with the skin on it. I'm trying to think. I remember telling somebody and I was like, you gotta take the skin off the chicken. They're like, but that's the best part. It can raise your saturated fat, can raise your blood cholesterol. It's also found in butter, cheese, lard, margarine. And trans fat, which is normally called hydrogenated oil. It's typically found in a lot of baked goods, shortenings, many margarines. That's one of the fats I tell our patients to make sure you look at the label, look for that word hydrogenated oil, because if it has hydrogenated oil in it, it's going to have trans fat. Healthy food choices. So it's important to have fiber in your diet. Fiber traps cholesterol in your blood and basically excretes it out of your body, keeps you fuller for longer. It also helps with your blood sugar. A lot of times when I tell my patients with CFRD, I tell them make sure you're pairing that carb with something with fiber or protein. What food has fiber? Your whole grains, so brown rice, whole wheat pasta, whole wheat bread, beans, legumes, and fruits and vegetables.
So we wanted to just keep in mind that this is very general information, and always know that your registered dietitian and your CF care providers will individualize this for you. Because we could go into a rabbit hole of nutrition information with this.
Especially in regards to like me and Sherilyn will have like conversations about like CFRD. We had such a good conversation this week in regards to CFRD and how we can better control it with insulin, how to be on top of that, with diet, with checking. We had such a great conversation, but it always goes back to every patient is different and every patient has a different nutrition plan.
Right. And there's a lot of factors to consider with that. You know, do people cook? Are you able to cook? Do you have access to cooking? Do you know how to cook? Do you like to cook? And we could tell you all the healthier food choices, but I always emphasize to anyone, you still have to eat the foods you like. You don't want to deprive yourself of foods that are so comforting and bring so much, they enrich your life in other ways. They bring festivity and happiness and family and holidays and all these wonderful things. But anyone, CF or not, but specific to this, we have to all try to make the healthier choices the majority of the time, because it's not an overnight thing that obesity happens or risks associated with diabetes happens. It's a very long process. So trying to prevent it and help maintaining things is something that takes, it's just habits, it's lifestyle habits, it's dietary habits, it's exercise habits. And we all have days where we want to indulge in favorite foods or goodies, and that's fine, but everything should be done in moderation. And that's really the key point. But again, it is very individual to each person, and your providers at the CF Center, they know you better than mostly your other providers, because you come see your CF providers fairly often, many of you. So we want to make it very specific to you. What may work for one person may not work for the other person. And with knowing you and individualizing it, we hope to really improve your just health overall. And we want to know too, what can we do as providers? We want to learn how to help the situation, because with the modulators, this has changed the realm of nutrition entirely. So we're unteaching everything about that high calorie, high salt, high fat stuff that many of you have been told your whole life, and we've done for our whole career.
Yeah.
So we're learning it and teaching it. And as much as we hope to teach you, we want to learn from you as well. So open for questions and comments and input. I'm going to take my screen off. Hold on.
I know, speaking of like the old CF diet, I just recently was told like, oh, I'm still on my typical CF diet. And I'm just like, the weight, we got to watch the weight. Like we got to watch the lipids. We got to watch the cholesterol. We got to watch going through everything. And I'm like, it's a very hard habit to break. When you're told the majority of your life, you can have this, you need to gain weight. And now we're so blessed in the time we live in. We have all these wonderful modulators and people are living longer, but we got to remember times are changing. We gotta watch what we're eating.
Right. And we have to evolutionize how we approach it as providers, because ultimately we want you to feel better, stay better, and live the healthiest life you possibly can.
Mm-hmm. So we're open for any questions.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because I definitely find myself struggling with changing my diet, because like you said, we went our whole lives just being told just eat everything, just anything to keep up with your weight, or to gain weight. So now that I'm like, oh, I'm kind of heavy now, I'm getting a little chunky on the sides, and it's like I don't even know where to start. Like, do you start doing like all these different diets that they have out there? Like, what's the first steps to changing your diet?
Well, I think there's a lot of components to it. First and foremost, it's like anything else. You got to want to do it.
Yeah.
And personally, I believe don't change too many things at once, because it's really hard to keep up with. And that's, I counsel in the hospital, and I do other things. I see other patients besides just CF. It's my specialty, CF. But little changes at a time will lead to long-term goals and long-term healthier habits. So I wouldn't say just go home and, cold turkey stop drinking juice, but you want to become mindful. And I think Teresa's really good at counseling our patients about mindful eating and mindful choices.
Yeah, my big thing is, so piggybacking off of what Jarlyn said, SMART goals, small, realistic goals that you can do. And like she said, it has to be something you want to do. I'm also I'm a little anti-diet, because I've seen stuff. I actually just recently read about a diet that I see a lot of girls doing, and it literally scared me. I couldn't believe that people were actually doing this, and it blew my mind, and it just didn't seem safe. And it's just sad that in the world of nutrition that we don't have bigger restrictions on who can teach you nutrition, because I'm sure you can go on the line and you can find this crazy diet, people telling you not to do this, don't do this, cut out this, don't eat that. And it's like, how are you supposed to live? Like, it doesn't seem realistic. I'm very big on listening to what Jarlyn was saying, mindful eating. Listen to your body, take out things that are distracting you while you're eating. Are you eating while sitting on your cell phone? Are you watching TV? Are you chewing your food really well? Are you I'm very big on those type of cues.
And it's important to just, when you're going to eat something, you want to think, okay, and this is something that it takes a lot of self-teaching too, but stop, think like, if I eat that, it's going to taste good, but am I going to feel bad about it afterwards or feel guilty about it? You should never feel that way,
Mhm.
ever, because sometimes you can indulge and that's okay, but you want to stop and actually think. And sometimes I like to say, well, think of me in the back of your head when I'm like, think of Geraldine saying, would that be a good choice? But it takes a lot of time and teaching and learning and patience, but it's, keeping it basic, easier said than done, will lead to small, long-term realistic goals, like Teresa said.
Yeah.
And it's really important when people say, I'm going on a diet and I'm never eating this again. It is historical in nutrition across the board. It may work for a little while, but it's near impossible for most people to keep up eliminating something entirely from their diet, like carbohydrates, for the rest of your life. Or just, it has to be realistic. You have to live, and food brings so much more than just nutrition. It brings people together. It brings a lot of other things than just vitamins and minerals and calories. We know for many people, when we talk about nutrition, it can be a chore, especially back when you're gain weight, eat more calories. And we understand that and we respect that, but we want it to bring joy and comfort to your life, but also to make you healthy and keep you healthy.
Yeah. Let's see. Going to, I guess, CF and diabetes. So, so many questions I guess I can ask. Let me see which one I want to do first.
Yeah.
Okay, so when it comes to diabetes and insulin and all of that, what foods do you think or you've seen like really just like spike up the sugars, like other than actual sugar, that we can like work on to, I guess. Okay, so my issue is I take, my insulin before I go, before I eat, and sometimes it's not enough. So my sugars would still spike anyway, I guess, depending on what I eat. And it's like, what foods are doing that? What's causing it to spike up so high? Because then there's other times where I'll take a lot of insulin thinking, it's going to spike because I'm eating this, and that. And then it doesn't. And then I end up dropping.
So can I tell you, so my father has diabetes, and the one thing I learned from him, because he's dependent on insulin, is that, and it's a big thing I learned from him, is that when you're taking insulin, write down your meals you're eating and start watching that trend. So like you're like, I took X amount of insulin, I ate pizza. 2 hours later, my blood sugar is this. My next meal, check it. Before I ate my chicken, rice, broccoli, it was this. And then 2 hours later, it was this. That's one of the best things you can do. So when you follow up with your endocrinologist, your CF team, we can basically like modify your diet. And then your endocrinologist can look and see like, oh, you'll need more insulin here. You'll need more insulin there. You'll need less here. I'm sorry.
And Teresa has a very good point. If we don't look at, you have to observe what you're eating. Because most people, we kind of just like, oh, I'm hungry. I'm going to have this for dinner. I'm going to have this for a snack. Back to the mindful thing, you have to be aware and acknowledge what you're eating, because if we don't see a trend with it, with either the food and or the insulin, it's hard to individualize it, and it's harder for you to get adequate control of your blood sugar. Now, some people could eat the same thing every day for the same meal and their sugars are still, they may present differently. There are some trigger foods that tend to be culprits for many people. take out Chinese food, fast foods, pizza sometimes depending on the person, but and the concentrated beverages, juice, soda, regular iced tea, lemonade, all that stuff. But observing your trend for yourself is really important. And also how you feel after you eat physically. That can be, it's an indicator. So being aware of what you're taking into your body and how it's the result of what it's doing. And that's how we individualize it. And we try our best to incorporate what you still like to eat and how we could say, all right, this might be a better choice. Do you like this? Let's try and choose this more often and this less often, but let's make it sort of a somewhat even swap.
I agree.
Thank you. And I'm full of questions.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so I know you guys spoke on the effects of bad nutrition, having heart issues, issues with your vision because of diabetes. So for the people who are out there who are now having those issues, are they, I guess with the vision issues, is it reversible? Can it be, or if you start having a better diet and you're controlling your diabetes better, can it pause the effects of the negative effects, or are you just like out of luck?
Well, some things, okay, there's two components to this. So with prolonged diabetes, it does damage to the vessels, the little vessels in our body. So it's the kidneys, the eyes, where your blood is all circulating. So it is a progressive thing, but it can be halted and it could stop continuing to get exponentially worse if you take control of it. It's never too late to start to make the effort to keep your blood sugars better, get them better controlled. Some things are not reversible, but you can halt them from getting worse. You can halt them from getting worse, especially, kidney disease. I mean, I work in a hospital too. Most of my patients that have advanced kidney disease have had diabetes for a very long time. However, they also probably didn't have the resources like a dietitian or other resources to help teach them. Unfortunately, dietitians are kind of like not as readily accessible, affordable for many areas of medicine in general. So take advantage of us. We're here and you get us. So like, that's what we're here for. So to stop the progression of anything and prevent it as much as we possibly can.
Yeah, I agree with Jarlin. A lot of things can be halted, and it's kind of like, I don't want people again to the mindset, well, it happened, this is it, this is my life. No, there's stages to different things. So if you're in this stage right now, we can stay in limbo. We can stay right here as long as you're staying on top of what you're eating. That's why we always stress like following up with your doctors is so important. All your different people, like all your different healthcare providers, like your eye doctors, your podiatrist, especially with CD40. Like I can't stress it enough during our appointments. Like you gotta follow up. I always joke, even with our patients, I'm like, we're fun. Just come in. I just want to see you. Just like hang out. Like just a
We're fun.
Yeah, time.
And medication management, be it insulin or otherwise, that has to be monitored because the dose of insulin you may have been on when you were a kid or 5 years ago, or it can change. And if your weight changes, your insulin needs may change too. If you lose weight, you may need less, and you don't want too much because low blood sugar is just as dangerous as really, really high blood sugar, if not more. And if your weight goes up, you may need more insulin. So that's where we, to tweak it, to make it as perfect as we could possibly get it, to fine tune it.
So like a little COVID silver lining is that a lot of these doctors do televisits. So sometimes you might not even have to like go in. Like if you have your CGM, like you can upload it, you can send it to your endocrinologist. So it's like you don't even have to go in sometimes.
Right. But if you have to remember to get certain things like CGM, sometimes they need to show that you're doing your other diabetes management to get it approved so you can do that. And the CGM, the continuous glucose monitoring device, is a really great device because you're not sticking yourself as many times a day. And it gives us a picture of what your whole day is like. You know, I mean, even if for those that don't have diabetes, when you go for your oral glucose tolerance test, they're giving you a certain amount of carbohydrate in that moment. But you might eat more or less of that throughout the day at each meal. So it just gives us that picture, but we want sort of a panoramic view.
Yeah, I think having CFRD is just as hard as having cystic fibrosis. Probably maybe even harder because it's you got to check your blood sugar in the morning. You got to be conscious of what you're eating. You got to make sure you're not running too low. If you're going to exercise, you got to check before you exercise. You don't want to bottom out. What's going to affect me? How is this going to affect me? Like, did I take the right dose of insulin? It's so much stuff, and the doctors you have to follow up with as well. So it's a lot. It's a difficult thing to live with. What are some things that you struggle with?
Ooh, me? I've definitely been doing better with my snacking. That was my big. I love the snack. I just like snacking, and I find myself doing it all the time, especially now working from home and at my computer, and I'm home. So it's easy to just grab a bag of chips and like, do my work. I just find myself constantly just picking. And it's like, okay, maybe I need to find healthier pickings and also not pick as much. Like you don't have to be chewing every 2 seconds.
Yeah. So sometimes it's good just to like, if you're like, oh, I want a snack, and then you get there, or like, let's say your chips are in your pantry and you're like, oh, I'm going to have a bag of chips. And I think just stopping before you take them and being like, am I really hungry or am I bored? Because a lot of times we eat out of boredom. And that's why I say sometimes like there's been studies that have been shown like eating with a group of people, being interactive, you tend to eat less and you tend to eat better. You feel fuller for longer. But like we live in a day and age where we're on our cell phone. So it's like you're scrolling through your phone. You're not really paying attention to what you're eating. And I mean, I've been guilty of it too. Like, we all have. We're all human.
And keep in mind some ideas too. Like if you know you're going to snack, only keep the stuff in the house that if you're going to snack, I only have fruit in the house. I only have nuts or seeds in the house. I have vegetables. I have yogurt. I have pretzels and nut butters, because if you're hungry, you'll eat what's there if it's something you still like. So, once in a while, why not? But if you stock up on a lot of the higher calorie, higher fat foods, if it's there, you're going to eat it. And I would say that's like, if you're going to pack your lunch for work, you're going to eat what you brought instead of if you order out all the time, like, ooh, I'll get this, I'll get that. If you're hungry, you'll eat what you have if it's something you made and you like. So it's kind of like setting boundaries with yourself.
Yeah, that's what I been making a shift. I've been buying more yogurt and healthier snack options. Speaking of snacking, what are your guys' favorite dishes to make?
So I love to make these. They're like burrito bowls, but I make them in a crock pot, and I throw in some seasoned chicken, beans. I make it with brown rice. I put in different like fajita vegetables, so like peppers, onions. I throw in a little corn, but that's like my go-to meal. I could, if I had to live off of something for the rest of my life, I would live off of that.
Wow. That was a quick answer. I'm like a variety person. I don't know if I could pick just one thing.
Oh, I've been in these situations.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, sometimes too, like cooking devices, like I have an Instant Pot. I love my Instant Pot. See, you could make things sometimes quick, sometimes it takes a little longer, but you could just throw so much in there and it's such a variety of things. So something I actually really like pork tenderloin. I'll put a pork tenderloin in the Instant Pot, which is, you could do it as a pressure cooker or a slow cooker, just some ideas. And I put like potatoes in with it and some sauerkraut in with it. So you get the, you get the fiber and the nutrients from the potatoes, and the sauerkraut, it's fermentable. So it's got some healthy probiotics for your gut. And the pork tenderloin, it's actually really lean. It's very low in saturated fat. And actually, it might even be less saturated fat than skinless chicken breast, or about the equivalent. Yeah. So that's one of my go-tos. Sometimes I'll just broil it. You could grill it. I mean, but hey, you can come to, I have a million ideas for foods and cooking and with, but I don't know if I have just that one thing. I don't know.
Oh no, mine's that. And I would put shrimp in it because I love seafood. So I'd be on my seafood extravaganza. And like you can add like lettuce to it, give it a little lettuce base if you didn't want to do rice, because like technically corn is a starchy vegetable. So here we go.
I love everything seafood. I can probably eat that all day, every day.
Seafood's a great choice. It's low in saturated fat. Many choices of seafood have omega fatty acids, things like salmon and other fatty fishes. They have a great source of other nutrients. They have iodine. They have, I mean, we could go on and on, but yeah.
I know. I was watching someone and I kind of want to try it because sardines get a bad rap in this world. And
I like them.
There we go.
Like the second person. I need to try sardines because I follow this blogger and she makes like a sardine melt, and sardines are so good for you. They are very good for you. And I'm just like,
they have healthy fatty acids in them, and the healthy fatty, they're omega fatty acids, which are actually, we call anti-inflammatory. So they have antioxidants in them. They help reduce all that, we call it free radicals, all the stuff that sort of, or the, I don't want to say, what's a good word? I don't want to use too strong a word, but the negative stuff in your body that when it breaks down and stuff.
Yeah. Body.
Yeah, I used to tear those up back in the day.
And they're good for your good cholesterol, your HDL. So I gotta try it. I'm gonna do it for you.
I gotta bring them back now. Now I'm gonna have to like.
We're gonna make sardines cool. What about you guys?
Your favorite meal?
I'm sorry.
Oops.
No, I was gonna say, what's your favorite meal?
Oh, mine. Oof. I don't know. I have too many. Well, like I said, anything seafood, I'm all the way down. Something I like to make. I've been obsessed with making like my own quesadillas lately. Just using like the which one? It's not flour, the corn tortilla.
Okay.
I love using that, and I usually make like a steak quesadilla, and I put like 1,000 different cheeses in it, and literally like 4 different cheeses, with some sour cream and pico de gallo, and just I like to make a whole little spread. I also make a mean chili.
That's a good one. And chili could actually be a really healthy choice. It's easy to make because you have the antioxidants from the tomato sauce. You have beans, which are legumes. They're loaded with fiber, peppers. You got some vegetables in there. And you could substitute it with like chicken or turkey, ground chicken or turkey, and it'll bring the saturated fat down, or you get more lean, like a 80% lean ground beef, and it'll bring it down. And I used to actually do chili recipe when I used to do community nutrition and teach children, and we would make a healthy chili and they loved it. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna make this my recipe. Like, it was great. So, and your food has to be tasty. It could be healthy and tasty at the same time. No one wants to eat something that's like, you know, dietetic tasty.
It's too short to be eating bland food.
Yeah.
That's why, like, I remember, like, I was like Jarlin, I used to like give diet education in the hospital, and I just remember people like, they were like, oh, how would I make my food taste good, like if I'm on like a sodium restriction? And I'm like, there are a billion herbs and spices out there that you can make your food taste good with. And
anything.
it's like, yeah, it's crazy. Like there's
flavors, any kind of flavors. You could even just pick like a culture out of a hat and be like, I'm going to go with Middle Eastern flavors or Asian flavors or Mediterranean flavors. I mean, we could go on and on and on. And it's easy to make your own sort of spice rubs, spice combinations, like even taco seasoning. Make my own taco seasoning. Instead of buying it in the packet, it's literally like 5 ingredients: onion powder, garlic powder. Most people got that in the house.
Yeah.
Little paprika, little chili, little pepper, little cumin, you know, like keeping things basic. It's sometimes, you know, easier to do in a way. And well, yes, you know, me personally, I Google like recipes constantly. And I'm like, okay, I read this recipe, that recipe. And I'm like, now I'm going to just make my own concoction and,
I know,
you know, see how it comes out.
My husband would make fun of me because that's what I do. I like would recipe test. I'm like, he was like, did you follow a recipe? And I'm like, oh, absolutely not. I was like, that ship has sailed. Yeah. So whenever I make, it's like I wing it.
Yeah. And if you're someone that likes to cook, experiment. If you know what flavors work and you know what combinations of things, go for it. You know, I mean, the basic preparation of meats and proteins is relatively the same. You bake it, you grill it, you roast it, you boil it, and then the rest is just healthy flavors and some veggies on top, you know? So it's fundamental. I mean, I know it's easier said than done, but you know, now where you live in a world where there's so many things processed, and it makes it easier. Because, you know, cooking, preparing food at home, going food shopping, that all takes time out of the day.
Yeah.
But the cost benefit and the health benefit will outweigh just the convenience of eating out all the time or grabbing pre-processed foods all the time. I mean, once in a while, I mean, I come home some days, I'm like, I don't feel like cooking. It's 7 o'clock at night. I just got home from work, you know, but or even making foods, and depending on what they are, freezing them fresh, put them in the freezer, and then you have a meal and you defrost it. You could do things like lentils or dal or, and that's what RDs are for. We could go on with ideas for
forever,
ever.
You know, I know one big thing that I did before I had my second son is that me and my husband, we made a bunch of food and we froze it. Like that's a big thing that I feel like a lot of people should start doing. We sometimes get like caught up from work and life. There's some days like to prevent us from eating out. Like chili is like one of the big things. Like we'll make it a giant pot and we'll freeze it. So
you could even do things like that with tacos. Make everything in bulk and then you just have it and throw it in. You know, use ground turkey, ground chicken, flavor it up. Put on some tomatoes if you like tomatoes and lettuce, get some reduced fat sour cream. And it's easy, it's fun. I mean, and that's a fun thing to do with friends too. Like have a taco party one night. You're having friends over, you lay everything out. Everyone gets to make their own tacos. You know, it's things like that. Quesadillas you could do, you know, even things like whole wheat mini pizzas, you know, I mean, pita pizzas, pita pockets. I mean, I could.
So I have a question. You mentioned earlier about some fad diets being like not very healthy. I want to know what is your opinion on like a lot of these social media influencers who go around promoting these type of diets, and like you don't really hear the nutritionist perspective, but we hear all these social media influencers. Which ones do you think are the most harmful to our bodies? Like, which ones would you rank to being the worst ones?
So the one I saw was like some gut health, it was some like random one. And I just remember, and this is like shame on our society, shame on what we envision as beautiful. Like, just because you're skinny does not mean you're healthy. So this diet, I looked at it this weekend, and their program was like a girl in a bikini, and it's about gut health. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, how's a girl in a bikini who's like the size of my thigh promoting gut health? And the restrictions that they were telling you to do were so toxic. I felt like it's not healthy eating. You can't sustain, like Jarlyn was saying, carbohydrates are a macronutrient. You need that for energy. You need that for brain function. You need that for cells down to your cells in your body. And you're going to tell someone to cut out carbohydrates. It's sickening.
Yes, it's ludicrous. Yeah, and when you eliminate if there's a diet, any fad diet, and they're like, eliminate fats, eliminate carbs. If you eliminate any big group of a type of food, you're missing out on the nutrients. Food has to be a variety of things you take in. So if you're eliminating something entirely, then you need to find a way to get those nutrients in from other foods. So like Teresa was saying, for carbs, for example, they are about half the energy that your body needs every single day. And I mean, me personally, I'm a carnivore. I don't, every food has its role in the body, in the world. And, I mean, I think that was a very good question that you asked, though, because there's so many fad diets and they are quite misleading. And keep in mind, most of these fad diets are people's opinions, and they're not based on science. They're not formally studied. They're not with input from legitimate health professionals or people that have experience in, there's things you need to consider too. Interactions with medications, medications not working effectively or properly. So there's a lot to it. I couldn't name just one or two, and I don't want to, but.
Also, if those diets really work, we would all be our perfect body weight, and there wouldn't also be about 500 bad diets. That's so right. The fact that you can go look this up and you can find about 100 different diets just tells you they don't work, because if that one works, why are there all these other ones?
So. And if it was, it would make our job a lot easier if there's just one.
I know.
But
but that's nutrition is not something to be taken lightly. It shouldn't be coming from a random person. It should be coming from a dietitian. It shouldn't be coming from, I hate to say it, I've seen people who are like, I'm a nutritionist. I sat for an online exam. That does not make you doesn't make you qualified. me and Jarlin went to school. We took a board certified exam. We did an internship. We had to do supervised hours. Like we went through a lot. And for someone to be like, oh, I took an hour test online, like I know what I'm talking about. No, you don't. Like you don't though.
And it's an ever learning process. I mean, I learn new things all the time, constantly. I mean, and even with supplements too, that's a whole nother conversation for another day. But very
I was
careful
just
with
about to ask
supplements.
you.
Yeah, and it's a really big topic because remember, supplements that you can go in certain vitamin shops or nutrition shops, they are not regulated by any agency. They can make a claim, but you don't know how much of an active ingredient is in there, how pure the ingredient is, how much it may not have in there, if it interacts with your medications. Medication, you know, we try to do it with food. We're dietitians, but at least when there are medications, there's a regulatory agency. There's been studies that take years and years with subjects and people and chemists and biochemists and so many people to make sure it's pretty much safe and it's going to have a benefit. Supplements, a lot of them are just a waste of money, to be honest with you. And they could pose a risk if they're not, you know, herbal supplements. They can be, it could be dangerous depending if you take it to a certain level. So we always exercise caution. And if you're ever going to take any supplement or like even these cleansing teas and stuff, I'm like, cleansing teas, just eat fruits and vegetables. And if you're backed up, take like Miralax, you know, like, I don't know. It's just like, what are you cleansing out? If you're eating generally healthy, then your body will do that on its own, you know?
Your kidneys, your liver, that'll detox for you.
Yeah, you don't want to just take any supplements or it just, you don't know. And we don't know either. We can't account for what's in them. And, you know, we want it to be as safe as possible for you, you know? I mean,
I've seen stuff like someone was like, oh, I drink this drink before I eat because it prevents me from eating more. And I like looked up the stuff in it and I go, there's nothing in here that like curbs your appetite. I go, what they're trying to teach you is that drink before you eat so you'll eat less. Go,
which can be done with water because it just takes up space in your belly, so you'll eat less, you know.
And it was kind of like an epiphany. They were like, what? And I go, yeah, just drink water before you're about to eat. I go, you're spending $100 a month on this supplement that it's not doing anything. Like, it's ridiculous. It's
concerning. Yeah, as dietitians, it's very concerning.
Yeah, and it's crazy how they can market things to, especially to women. Women is like the big thing. Certain supplements, diets. Like I mean, in my teen years, I've fallen victim to stuff like that because I was like, oh, this celebrity takes it. It worked for her. I'll be fine. And it told me nothing.
Right. Because there are a lot of famous faces that will endorse things, but keep in mind, they also have personal trainers and private chefs. And, you know, a lot of what they do is to look good, but they fail to always talk about the healthy habits they had and the people that help them establish healthy habits. So,
I mean, I'd be fit too if I worked out for 4 hours of my day and had someone cooking and not having to go to work. So it's
relative, you know, always keep in the big picture, you know, in the grand scheme of things. So
yeah, and it's so, and a lot of times we see this on social media, and I go, you always see like the best in people. You never see people's failures. You never see anybody doing poorly on social media. So it's like you gotta look out, like,
is it too good to be true?
Yeah.
And when something doesn't work, you learn from it and then you do it better the next time, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I had people avoid me because they're like, I fell off the bandwagon. And I go, well, you don't avoid me because you fell off the bandwagon. I'm not a mean person. I'm never going to yell at you. I'm going to keep rooting and cheering you on. You're human. We all make mistakes. We all drop the ball. We all fall off of eating healthy. We all have bad days. We sometimes emotionally eat. We're humans, but it's getting back on track. And I think having people like holding you accountable, like checking you in. I always tell people, like, I show up for people who show up for me. So if you know, like, listen, I'm not doing so well with my eating habits, try to reach out to somebody, try to make a plan, like, hey, like this week we're gonna make our own lunch, we're gonna cook at home, we're not gonna eat out, we're gonna drink some water, like, and have some part of that.
Exactly. Do it as a team effort, a family effort, a friend effort. If you do it together, it makes it a little easier. It does. And you're not the only one, you know, everyone, it's good to have someone. It's always, I don't think any person would deny, if I could relate to you and you make me feel better, I make you feel better, we're making better choices together. Well, you will probably be more successful with making healthier eating habits. So establish a support system. It really can go a long way.
Even if it's with your CF dietitian and it's like, hey, can I just check in with you once a month or maybe every 2 weeks? And I do it with some of my patients.
Yeah.
They're like, can you just check in on me like every so often? And that's what we do. We check in on them. So you can always reach out to your team.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're not gonna be like, absolutely not. I'm sure they'll be like, of course, your team wants you to feel good. Your team wants you to be the best you can be.
Well, one thing that me and my sister does, Tiffany, we kind of like, look out for each other. Like she always like, supplies me with like, healthy snacks, like always encouraging me to work out, and I encourage her back, and like, we try to like, help each other be our best selves. And because like, at the end of the day, like, we are what we have. So
that's right.
I love
and when I always say to keep in mind, if you would nurture yourself, if it's something you would say to your friend, your family, your loved one, your coworker, tell it to yourself. When you're offering words of encouragement, tell it to yourself. Because if you want to be the best you for other people, you have to be healthy for you too.
Yeah.
True.
I think also like body image, like we view a certain weight as beautiful, but like you wouldn't tell like a little kid like, oh, look at you wouldn't go to a baby and be like, oh, look at your chunky little thighs. Like you embrace those little rolls. You're like, oh, yeah, I can eat those. And I think the biggest thing is to be kind to yourself. Like you build. I do it sometimes. I'm just like, oh, like here I am yet again struggling with my weight. And it's just like the more you beat yourself up, you're not gonna, it makes it less motivating. You're just like, this is where I'm at. You got to be kind to yourself. It's a process. I always tell people, if you lose a pound a week for a year, that is 52 pounds. 52 pounds. That is a lot of weight. Like when you think about that, that's a lot. And it's like, it's like something you got to think about. So gotta be kind to yourself when it comes to that stuff.
I agree 100% because I find that like when I beat myself up for not accomplishing this goal that I set for myself, then I find myself just not just feeling so unmotivated to do anything. I end up wasting so much more time.
That's right.
And time is such a precious commodity that we don't have a lot of. And I feel like when I spend so much time feeling down on myself, I wasted maybe 2-3 hours just feeling down, where I could have been productive if I just gave myself little leeway. It's okay, but you're trying, and just remembering to keep a positive mindset, even though when it's difficult and you just want to cry it out.
Yeah, I'm a very big, I love working out. But there's days where I'm just I just don't want to. But then there's days where I just do a 10-15 minute exercise, whether it be a breathing exercise, whether it be stretching, even if it's going for a little walk, that's still something. It's still
every little thing adds up.
Exactly. And even when you look at the big picture, I didn't sit on the couch all day. I moved around, even if it's for 10 minutes. There's days where I only do 10 minutes of exercises. And that's perfect. That's what I need. And also listening to my body. Sometimes my body just physically can't do it. I had a rough day, or it's just not it's
life. It happens, right?
Exactly. So I'm also very big into I'll do sleep meditations. I'll do breathing exercises are very big thing. So definitely look into resources like that, and those are really good for you. So
yeah, I'm really big into that. So yeah, I agree.
I'm very proud of you for being a person's accountability partner. That's a big thing. That's awesome, and never lose that with each other. That's a wonderful thing.
Thank you. We try. I like it.
Oh, and that's all you gotta do.
That's the most important. You just keep trying, and if you fall down, you just get back up. Because no one wants to stay down. Yeah, you're not gonna. Don't kick yourself while you're down. You get back up and you get back into the routine of things.
Are you guys close by to one another?
Yeah, I live about 10 minutes from her.
Oh, so you guys can I always tell people, when it's nice out, go for walks, get out there, get the sunshine, get the nice weather. This is the best time.
It is the best time. It only keeps getting better. It's
your mood changes.
Yeah, it does. There's actually seasons can affect our emotions, our just mental well-being. And more sunshine means more vitamin D. You always hear us talk about vitamin D. So
yes.
I know.
Yes. Oh, well, this was awesome. So informative. It was fun. I really enjoyed it. Thank you. Thank you for joining us again.
Of course. Anytime. Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you for having us. I really enjoyed this, and I hope we could spread the good word of food and nutrition, and we're happy to come back.
We love doing this. So if there's any topic anybody wants to talk about, let us know. We love doing these. We love helping out and sharing what we know. And even if you want us to do an informal thing, a Q&A type situation, maybe one where it's that, we can do that. We love doing this.
Well, I will definitely be reaching out about that.
Yes.
Thank you. I would like to thank our sponsors, Chiesi, Nestle Health Science, and VHS. Thank you for sponsoring Struggle You. And everyone, join us for some more classes. You can rewatch this at any time on Facebook and also on our YouTube channel. So check it out. You'll see a whole array of our different Struggle You classes and events. Our next class will be tomorrow at 2 p.m. If anyone is interested, you could sign up at cflf.org/strolou. All right. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank
Be
you.
well.
Bye.
Bye.
Right. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you. And I'm going to stop the recording.